Hey guys, it's Ben here from the Strength Factory and welcome to episode number 1 of Factory Knowledge, which is going to be a video series answering your questions and me talking about and coaching you through all the things that are going to help you perform better at action sports, whatever that is, whether you're mountain bike, motocross, ski, snowboard, obstacle course racing, climbing mountains, trying to get in the military, whatever that is, okay, this is the platform to hopefully help you achieve that. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to get this out once every week. Today I'm recording it in the outdoor training area at the gym because that's the only quiet space I could find. So you're going to find I'm outside at the gym, I'm inside at the gym, I may be at my kitchen table or in my garden or even in the woods, okay, but I'm always going to do my best to get you an episode every week. Now the other thing I want you to do is I want this to be two ways, rather than just Ben talking about what he wants to talk about today. I would love for you guys to get involved. So number one, you need to subscribe on YouTube and share the love would be good as well. And then you can also drop me a line with some questions. So either in the comments under this episode or drop me an email, ben@thestrengthfactory.uk, or on my social media if you've got any questions. And I'll do my best to get back to you. So, topic number one, it is the 16th of May, and for a lot of my guys, the season has started. Most of the people I coach at the moment do mountain biking or motocross, and the season is on, there are a few races in, so I wanted to talk to you about in-season training and how to balance training and racing and competition. And yes, this is summer and it's mountain biking and motocross, but it applies no matter what sport you do. There's always a season and an off season, and how you train in season is super important, and it really affects how you then perform on the weekend or whatever it is that you do. So the first thing is that you've got a race or an event on a weekend. The first thing you've got to do is recover from that race or event, and that starts like the minute you cross the finish line. Let's say you've done a motocross, you've done a moto, and your heart rate's through the roof, you get over the line, pop the bike down, boom, and you just like slump in a chair in the pits. That is not a good way to start your recovery. A disciplined and professional and, you know, an athlete or rider who wants to be better is going to put that bike down and start some sort of cool down. Now, if you've got the facilities, you can spin on a bike, or even you can just walk around the pits or something, just to do some activity to bring that heart rate down gradually, okay? Rather than going from sky high to stop dead, you just jump down and be like, ugh, and then when you get next ride or train, you feel rubbish because of it. The other thing that you should really do is, if you're gonna be racing, especially the following weekend, then recovery starts straight away. So hit yourself a recovery shake, or if not that, then hit some good quality food within like half hour, 45 minutes, once your heart rate's come down and once you've calmed down a bit and you're less stimulated after the event. Now obviously if you're on the podium spraying the champagne because you've been in one of my programs, then maybe that'll be delayed, but you get a pass if you won, so that's all right. So after the actual event, we've then got generally a week, like Monday to Thursday or Monday to Friday, depending on how much traveling you have to do. And in that time, yeah, we want to at very least maintain the fitness and strength that you've built through the off season. And so that means doing some strength training, doing some kind of conditioning, whether it's like running or cycling or mountain biking or whatever it is that you do, but with that balance of making sure that you reach the following weekend, the following event, still feeling fresh. And that's where this is a bit of science and a bit of art and a bit of just listening to how you feel. So at the very least, we want to maintain your fitness and strength. And so let's say, just keep it simple with strength, you don't want to lose strength, and you can actually maintain really good levels of strength just by lifting once a week. You're probably not going to really improve your strength much lifting once a week, but you can maintain it. So thinking about a deadlift, maybe you built up to be able to do 3 sets of 5 reps at 100 kilos over the winter. Well done, that's really good. But we want to keep that. You don't want to be weaker by the end of the season because you still want to be strong and competitive. But lifting once a week, what we could do is we could reduce the volume a bit. So instead of doing 3 5s, we could do 3 3s, but still work up to and lift 100 kilos. And then we're keeping, that exposure to lifting heavy, to lifting 100 kilo weight. Okay, and we've also reduced the volume of training slightly, and so we're a little less fatigued and a little less tired by the end of the week, so we're fresh to race. Similarly, you could have done 2 sets of 5 instead of 3 threes, same difference, and it's just down to what you feel is going to work best for you, or what your coach thinks is going to work best for you. Other things to think about are, as we approach the season and go into the season, is that your training needs to be more event specific. So in the depths of the off season, it's general, it's more about you as the individual, and then when we reach a season, it becomes more specific. It's still about you, but it's about you doing that event. So we're talking about the duration of the event, the intensity of the event, the movement patterns of the event, and things like that. Okay, so just think about that when you're planning out your training. Skills are super important, because for most people in most action sports, there's a big skill component. It's not just fitness, it's not just running a marathon or something, and those skills have got to be sharp. Okay, so you need to be riding your bike a lot, or whatever it is, you need to be doing it. The skills need to be sharp so that you can be competitive and apply that strength and fitness that you've hopefully built. The next bit to think about is to tie into that freshness I already mentioned, and it's this idea of actually being mentally fresh as well, and switched on, and still hungry and looking forward to racing. And that means taking a couple of breaks through the season, which I find is really valuable for my guys, where there's a week where they do less training, i.e. in volume and also in total days, so they actually physically recover. And then the training they do, maybe we'll do it logged off, so they're not on Strava, they're not using their heart rate, there's no additional stress. We're removing stress and things that take energy, mental and emotional energy to do. The training sessions are a little less brutal and require a little less motivation to do, because training, as much as it's a positive thing, is a stressful thing, and going deep week in and week out is going to wear you down emotionally as well as physically over a period of time. And the best racers are the ones who turn up on the weekend and they are still hungry and they are stoked to ride, they're stoked to race, and that's what they want to do. And it's the same if you're going to go and climb a mountain. If you're absolutely fried because you've been training for 6 months solid and you haven't given yourself a break, then you're fed up by the time you get there, then it's no good. You've got to be mentally peaking as well for your event. Last one I'll say is going back into the gym environment and talking about being fresh and sharp, is more of a technical one, and that's limiting muscle soreness. For my guys who race in the summer, in the winter, I can get them real sore in the gym. I don't really care. Maybe I secretly like it, okay? But in the summer, when I've got to race and ride loads and compete, that's not very productive, okay? So we can do things to reduce that muscle soreness. Number one, reducing volume really helps with that, like I talked about earlier. And one of the big things we can do is reduce the eccentric, or the lowering phase of the exercises. So if we think really simply of a press up, as I lower to the floor, that's the eccentric or lowering phase of the exercise. And then as I press back up, that's the concentric part where I push back up. And it's the eccentric part of the exercise that contributes most to muscular soreness. So what that means in practical terms is that when we program and when we train through this season, we can do things like we can lower more quickly instead of slowly, or we can do exercises where there's a very limited or even zero eccentric. For instance, pushing the sled or prowler in the gym is completely concentric. It's hard, it's physical, it gets you strong, but it doesn't leave you sore, and that is really valuable. So it's just one to think about when you're selecting your exercises in your training program. Now, my second subject for this episode number 1 sounds a bit full on and intense, okay? Because, I used to be in the army and everything, and so maybe you're worried I'm a bit like that, but I'm not. But it's just one to think about. It's a bit more of a philosophical one. And it's this idea of discipline equals freedom. Now, this isn't my own thing. This is taken from ex-US Navy SEAL lunatic Jocko Willink, who's all over the internet and all over podcasts. You may have seen him on Tim Ferriss. He's been on Joe Rogan, I think, as well. And yeah, ex-Navy SEAL. Now he's all about motivation and leadership and things like that. And he's bonkers and really scary, but he speaks a lot of sense as well. And when he first said this discipline equals freedom thing, I didn't really buy into it, but I've thought about it a bit more, and I think it actually makes a lot of sense. And for me, in the training kind of world as well, it especially makes sense, because what we have to do sometimes is you have to be disciplined to do your rehab now. Like for your shoulder, let's say, you have to do your rehab. You don't really want to, but the discipline to do that now gives you the freedom to train and to do your sport later. The discipline to stick to your training regime gives you the freedom to race and, you know, really be competitive in the summer and to do the things you want. Being disciplined enough to train before your annual ski trip gives you the freedom to ski every day without having to call it a half day on the Wednesday because your legs are too tired because you didn't train and you're overweight and you're not strong enough, okay? And they're all like really small, short-term examples of it, but it really ties into lots of broader parts of your life. And so if we think about being disciplined to train, well, how do we get that discipline? Because you might say, I don't have time to train and things like that. And I'd say, well, for instance, maybe with me, I'll do some, maybe I'll go for a ride on a Wednesday afternoon, okay? And people say, oh, you're so lucky you get to ride on a school day on a Wednesday. And it's, yeah, I do that because I'm disciplined enough to then stay up late after dinner when I'd rather be watching Netflix and write programs and do some emails and put stuff like this on the internet. The discipline to do one allows me to do the other, okay? So I don't want it to be too heavy, and I'm not all about like full on like military discipline the whole time. That's not how I am with my athletes. It's a two-way conversation. But the reality is, if you want the freedom to enjoy the things you want, if you want the freedom to be athletic and sporty and to challenge yourself physically and mentally, then discipline in parts of your life is going to really help you to do that. So hopefully you enjoyed episode 1 of Factory Knowledge. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment in the comment section below this on YouTube. Find me an email, DM me on Instagram, and don't forget to hit subscribe. And I'll see you next week with episode number 2. Thanks very much.